You should probably understand that blue and gray are built the same.
Backwards,
We're all
march!
Americans. Out on this field, we're all friends.
Partly advanced through the center of the battle line and buy time for the rest of the army to reload, to introduce a new element to the battlefield. By 4, the 35th Colored Troops and 54th Massachusetts Infantry, commanded by Colonel James Montgomery, are brought onto the scene, knapsacks and gear in their wake. They are met in battle. The addition of the 497 men and 13 officers temporarily staggered the Confederate, all of which shapes the battle line into a concave that covers the Union Army on the center and the sides.
Pushing forward with great vigor upon the center, the whole line moving as directed, the enemy gave way in confusion. We continued the pursuit for several miles when night put an end to it.
Correct. I would do the order. During the continuance of the battle, also after the enemy had given way, I sent repeated
1,152 wounded and 506 missing, for a total of 1,861. The Confederates suffered 93 wounded, 847 wounded, and 6 MIA, for a total of 946. Nearly half that of the
Have brought war to the nation. War for what they believe to be the sovereign rights of their states, including their right to hold their fellow countrymen in slavery. Abraham Lincoln would meet the Confederate forces in the field of battle with the Union armies, but he would not go to war to free Negro slaves. Yet in his wisdom he would declare that he would recognize our best hopes for realizing prosperity and military protections from those aggressive forces in Europe, our best hopes for eventually seeing equal rights and liberties for all our citizens would be for us to remain still one whole nation. Only a few weeks ago, on the 1st of January, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln would issue his Emancipation Proclamation. I and my fellow abolitionists were exceedingly glad to see that finally the government had reversed its policy on freeing the slaves. For this was the government's declaration that the slaves were to be freed as a consequence of this war. However, upon close examination of this emancipation document, we met with high disappointment, for we find that this Emancipation Proclamation did not free all of the slaves. Only those slaves living in states currently in open rebellion against the Union were to be freed, leaving some 800,000 of our brethren yet in bondage. In time, we did find ourselves highly encouraged, however, for we saw that the Emancipation Proclamation did give permission to those states in the North that would raise regiments of Negro troops. I and others were solicited to recruit able-bodied men of color to serve in the Union Army. And it is for this high purpose that I am here today to speak to you. I'm happy to tell you that I have been quite successful in helping to fill the ranks of the Massachusetts 54th and 55th Regiments, as Massachusetts would be one of the first to raise and equip and train Negro troops for the Union cause. I must say, however, that I did not meet with this success without considerable trials and difficulties, for the men to which I spoke were already free men of color. And they would inevitably and invariably put to me the question, "Douglas, sir, why do you ask us to participate in this war? Is it not well understood, sir, by the declaration of our federal government that this is to be a war between white Americans only? Is it not true, sir, that the Secretary of War himself did declare that no matter what the outcome of this civil conflict, there would be no change whatsoever in the condition of the Negro?" So, please say, are you not aware of the Dred Scott decision 4 years prior to this Civil War, where the highest court of our nation, the United States Supreme Court, in the words of the Honorable Justice Taney, he would say that no person of African descent could be a citizen of these United States. Indeed, no person of African descent would have any rights whatsoever that any white American would be obligated to respect. And I looked upon those that would listen, realized that most of these men were the sole means of financial support for their families. How could I ask them to leave denying their families such? How could I ask them to leave their families, abandoning them, denying them any manner of protection that they may muster against prejudice and hatred? How could I ask these men to go off and perhaps never return, facing that cowardly edict of Jefferson Davis, when he would declare upon hearing of the Emancipation Proclamation that he would see to it that captured black soldiers in battle, in the fields of battle, nay, would they be surrendered to prisoner of war camps as customary for white soldiers. Black soldiers captured in battle would be considered of no noble purpose whatsoever, only seen as blacks in insurrection to their rightful white masters, therefore highly deserving of execution immediately in the field. Or a more preposterous fate. Brave black men fighting for the restoration of our union and the freedom of their very own people, captured in battle and themselves sold back into slavery. I say to those men that would listen, sirs, I, Frederick Douglass, know not that I possess any profound wisdom or any divine power such that I might dictate the course of this civilization. Sirs, I beg you, I know only of the truths of my own heart and the truths of my own person when I declare to you that I am Frederick Douglass, born to a slave woman and born to be none other than a slave, and to know not why my humanity would not be recognized. The Negro slave knows not why he's to be whipped into submission to another man. That slave knows only that he is to labor in dumb anguish, and know not why his misery is of no significance. The Negro slave knows not why his limbs are bound in chains, and his heart and spirit bound by ignorance to what all free men may read or hear. That he, the slave, is yet a man with the humanity in all respects the same as his white brethren. The Negro slave, with his skills, with his labors, his intelligence, and his very humanity, most adequate and suitable he is to support his own Negro family and kin, as he finds himself presently supporting the household of his white oppressor. I, Frederick Douglass, was born a slave, but now I am free. Freed, sirs, by my own deliberate actions, as well as with the help of good white men and white women in our great land of conscience. And I stand before you now here, an abolitionist and a recruiter for Negro men to serve in this Union Army. For I fervently believe the Negro should serve the Union cause. I have employed an imperiled nation to free its mighty black hand, to unchain its mighty black hand. Let those that would be free themselves strike the blow, for nevermore shall the crying slave child see her mother for the last time, screaming as her pleading hands are viciously pulled away from her child. She turns to see her child sold to one as she's to be sold off to a faraway master herself. Nevermore should the pitiful runaway slave but endure horrible humiliations and tortures, even unto death, for being caught running away, for being caught seeking only his freedom, for being caught seeking only his humanity. I say, no war here but an abolition war. No peace but an abolition peace. Liberty for all men, chains for none. The black man a soldier in war, as we see him now, a laborer in peace. A voter throughout the North and all across the South. For all America shall be our permanent home. Thereby, all Americans, our fellow countrymen, I, Frederick Douglass, in the words that appear on the recruitment posters throughout the northern states, men of color, to arms now, or never.
Ladies and gentlemen, come gather around if you can hear my voice. You could have been anywhere else in the world today. Just I'd be right here in Olustee. Thanks for participating. My name is Detective Alan Pinkerton. Yes, that Pinkerton. Pinkerton's National Detective Agency. I became the Chief Union Officer of the Union Intelligence Service during the Great War between the states. Under my command, I interviewed and hired this young man. This is John Scoble, my most trusted scout in the field. Today you'll learn about some of his operations through Virginia. Spy, the Union Army. A little background on my life. I was born in Scotland in 1819. I came to the United States in 1842. I was a cooper by trade. This means I made barrels. I moved to Chicago. I entered the Chicago Police Department. Became their first detective in Chicago. In 1850, now some of you know, 1850, 10 years before the great President Abraham Lincoln was elected. In 1850, I opened up the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, Chicago. During that time, I hired the first female detective in the United States history. Her name was Kate Barnes. As the 1850s unrolled, the United States was being divided, of course. Dred Scott decision, John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. And then, of course, November 1860, the election. And our great President Abraham Lincoln was elected. Now, I would call myself a friend of the great president, because I was an abolitionist, as Mr. Douglas so fondly calling efforts of the abolitionists. He said of me later, friend of honesty and a foe of crime, at Pinkerton. Friend of honesty and a foe of crime. Lincoln is elected November 1860, and it was I that was hired to escort the president-elect to Washington, D.C. for his inauguration. Prior to that, I uncovered an assassination plot to kill our new president. Those rebel traitors were planning to kill him when his train stopped in Baltimore, Maryland, on the way to his inauguration. Uncovering this plot, I changed the times that his train was to arrive in Baltimore. We recovered Mr. Lincoln in disguise, and were able to secretly, safely escort the new president to Washington, D.C. On that trip, I had another operative named Timothy Webster, and that first female detective, Kate Barnes, with me. We prevented the assassination of Abraham Lincoln in January of 1861. So how is it that I met John Scoble? Mr. Scoble, tell us some of your background, sir.
My master was a Scotchman, and he freed me and my wife, as you know. and I've heard of a man by the name of Alan Pinkerton, and they say he was looking for some spies for some undercover research. And I was thinking to myself, I'm quite intelligent. I know the terrain, seeing as I'm from South. And I can read and write. I'm very literate. So I decided I will be of great use to you. So I sought you out, and that's when I found you.
So I understand you were a slave in Mississippi.
Sir.
Your master brought you to Richmond, whereupon he freed you and your wife. Your wife found work as a laundress in Richmond, and you sought Union lines to help. So in my capacity as the chief of Union intelligence, I realized that gentlemen like Mr. Scoble could offer intelligence to the Union Army that was unparalleled. So I interviewed contrabands of war. I interviewed former slaves. Most of them were not going to help. However, a gentleman like Mr. Scoble, as he said, could read and write. He knew Virginia like the back of his hand. So in '62, before Antietam, I sent Mr. Scoble on a mission with Mr. Timothy Webster into Virginia. I assigned them to visit Manassas before the battle, the second battle of Manassas. He came back with some amazing information. Matter of fact, Admiral Doubleday, General Doubleday also used operatives that he got from the contraband. Mr. Scoble, could you tell us, did you fear for your life during some of these missions, sir?
Yes. Sometimes I'll go on missions that you're assigned to me some 300 miles away before returning to you. And I would go down to the south, undercover as a darky slave. You see, I would perform dances and sing Scottish ballads that my master taught me before freeing me and my wife.
So you were a singer, a performer, you were?
Yes. I would go down to South Richmond, Virginia, too. And I would perform and get information from the rebel army. They never thought that a darky slave like me would have the knowledge to listen in on them and obtain information for the Union Army.
We so appreciate that expertise, sir. Now, this mission with Webster, tell us how that one went.
Timothy Webster, I was undercover as a darky slave, and he was found out, fortunately. They caught him and assigned him for a hanging, and pleading, begging for his life for him to be shot and killed on the battlefield as a true warrior. They did not allow him that right. On the day of his hanging, they walked him to the gallows. Bloodthirsty southern folk, just at their own time. It was heartless. The first time they attempted his hanging, the rope was too long. So as he went through the trap door, they pulled the lever and he dropped down to the floor. Not dying, in humiliation, they brought him back up, practically dragging his body back to the same place. He's shivering. And then finally pulling the lever, executed.
My heart bleeds for Webster. Webster was, other than Scoble, one of my best operatives. Ladies and gentlemen, Timothy Webster, 24 years old, as Mr. Scoble mentioned. He's captured on the same mission. They didn't suspect you.
No.
And as Scoble said, Webster begged the rebel commander, Winder, General Winder, please shoot me rather than hang me like a common criminal. Winder, the scoundrel, said the orders will be carried out for hanging tomorrow. Can you imagine when he walked up the scaffold, the trapdoor opened, he hit the ground, how to walk back up the scaffold and to be hung a second time. Timothy Webster joined the pages of time. Thank goodness they didn't capture you, sir. The war continued, and Scoble again, my best operative in the field. He gave information that would lead to some of our success at Antietam, later Gettysburg. Just before the war, I reported to Chief Engineer McClellan, not McClellan, his young attorney Lincoln, not Lincoln. And then during the war, we get together to defeat the foe, Southern armies. This is my greatest operative in the field, John Scoble. I appreciated his service to the great United States. Ladies and gentlemen, we remind your humble servants, Detective Alan Pinkerton, friend of honesty, foe of crime, Captain John Scoble, my trusted servant, his best spy.
W.H. Ringgold was a free man of color who worked on a riverboat on the York River. Let's hear about him.
I am Susan King Taylor. I remember so well how I became free. I was a teenage slave girl living with my grandmother, a free woman of color. I escaped with my uncle on a gunboat docked in Savannah, Georgia. I ended up teaching the Union soldiers and sailors on that boat how to read when they found out my grandmother had taught me. That boat would carry me all the way to Port Royal Island, South Carolina. I stayed busy. There I did many things, teaching slave children, nursing wounded soldiers, cooking, doing laundry. Well, anyways, one day I was near a group of soldiers and I heard them talking about a law that Jefferson Davis passed. This law said that all free black men between the ages of 18 and 50 had to go and work for rebel camps, and if they didn't, they would be severely punished. They were also talking about this man named W.H. Ringgold, a free man of color from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Well, he was forced to work on a Confederate riverboat out on the York River. He was on that boat for 6 months until it got damaged in a storm. He watched and learned everything the rebels did. Our men, they were sent to Baltimore, Maryland. When Ringgold got there, he went to the Union officers. He told them where the rebels built their fortifications, where the troops were located, where they sent their shipping supplies to. He told them everything. They sent him straight to Alan Pinkerton, the Union's chief intelligence officer. He took that information right to General McClellan. Those soldiers told me that there were many other contraband spies too, just like Ringgold.
that we are in Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy, where its president, Jefferson Davis, resided and met with his military officers. There, Davis conducted his troop movements and actions. He lived with his wife, Verena, and their family. Verena often sponsored social gatherings. She used slaves to nurse and take care of their children, also to prepare and serve at social functions. The Van Loo family in Richmond was very, very wealthy and owned slaves during that time. One became a Union spy. Let's hear from her.
When I was a young girl, Mr. John Van Loo purchased me as a slave. He wanted me in his home because he wanted me to be a servant, a confidant, and a friend to his daughter, Elizabeth. When he bought me, he named me Mary Elizabeth. Elizabeth and I became good friends throughout the years. So much so, in fact, that when John Van Loo died, his daughter Elizabeth freed me. She sent me to a school in Philadelphia, a school for colored children. There I learned how to read, how to write, and a lot of other things that were helpful. I then returned to Richmond, where I was both well educated and free. But when I returned to Richmond, I discovered something. I found that Elizabeth and her mother had very strong beliefs. They believed that slavery was bad. They felt it was evil, and they believed that they needed to do something about it. So they went to a to a prison in Richmond, and the prison was for Union soldiers. There, they brought the books and they took food to them. Many times, they took me with them. And when they would leave, they would listen carefully to what the guards were talking about. When they left, they would report what they heard to Union soldiers. They had me doing that as well. I was scared, but I didn't mind it at all. Elizabeth and Mary decided that they would send me to become more than just that kind of spy. So Elizabeth asked Jefferson Davis's wife if she would hire me as her servant. Jefferson Davis's wife said yes, she would do it. That was my opportunity. But I had a gift that they did not realize. I had something that was kind of a secret. When I would help Jefferson Davis with his guests at his parties and his gatherings, I would listen very closely to what they were saying. But what they didn't know was I remembered every single word they said. Then I would go back to my room and encode the code that Elizabeth taught me. I would go back to my room and encode, I would write down everything I heard them say. And I would send that information to either Elizabeth or sometimes to the troops. And I was also a house cleaner in Jefferson Davis's home. And I would love going into his office because I would clean and then I'd look at his desk and I'd read. And then I would clean some more and I'd look at his desk and I would see what plans he had made and what his strategies were. As soon as I finished cleaning, I'd go back to my room. And in that same code, I would write everything I saw on his desk because I could remember it all. Sometimes, after I wrote the coded notes, I would put them in empty eggshells. There was a man who came to Jefferson Davis's home on a regular basis to bring eggs and to bring other kinds of produce and food. And he would take those eggs that I had put the coded messages in, and he would drive them over to Van Lou's home or to the soldier's home. But they would know what was going on in the Jefferson Davis household and what was going on in Jefferson Davis's mind because of what I wrote down for them. He never found me out. I did it for many years, and after the war was over, I packed up my things, I left, and no one ever knew where I went after that.
Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was invited to the Sea Islands at Port Royal by the governor of Massachusetts. Harriet had a full life of aiding slaves to escape before she went to live in Canada with her parents, then moving to Auburn, New York to live. Harriet is here with us today. Let's listen.
I want to tell you about my Civil War service, 1861. Now, as I done traveled all up and down the South, from Maryland to Virginia. I remember going there to collect my kin, and I wanted to help some slave people to be free. When I collect some mammy and my pappy, we decided we was gonna go to Canada. You see, we believe Canada is the land of the free. We believe that our darkest nights had turned to day. We believe Canada was our Canaan land. Well, when we get to Canada, we decide we're gonna stay there for a while. We're gonna stay with the slave peoples already there. We thought we'd give them some comfort. Well, after being there for a while, we decided, my mammas and my papas, we decided we was gonna leave because Canada was just too cold for us. So we ended up going to New York, Auburn to be exact. Well, that's where we lived. Oh, that's where we went, and that's where we stayed. Well, when we get to New York, I get a message from Governor John Andrews. And so I said, I need to go see him. And when he gets there, he say, "Oh, Hap?" I say, "Yes, sir." You's a right smart woman. You's done been all up and down the South, and you ain't never got caught. Now I want you to do a little mission. I want you to do a little spy work for me. I say, yes, sir. He says, I want you to go to a little place called Beaufort, South Carolina. And I want you to go down there and help out any ways you can. I said, well, I think I can do that. And he says, now when you get there, you're going to meet a man by the name of Colonel James Montgomery. And I says, okay. And he says, he's going to help you out and give you what you need. So now you should do that for us. He says, we's going to help you get your peoples free. And we's going to have 3 gunboats there waiting on you. I said, well, yes, sir. And that's exactly what I want. So I go on to Beaufort, Carolinas. And when I gets there, oh, Lord, there was some funny talking peoples down there. They couldn't understand me and I couldn't understand them. I said, Lord have mercy. But we kept on talking together and working together. Now I want to tell you something about them Gullah peoples. They's the ones who told me where them rebels had hid their supplies and hid them tall peoples. I want to tell you a little bit about my spy work. I got them colored troops and I had them to work with me and I put them in my spy ring. And when I first got there to that place, oh Lord, them boys were sick. And I had to help them out. I had to nurse them. Some of them had the dysentery, and boy, they was in a mess. I cooked, I cleaned, I cook, clean, and I help them out any ways I can. And some of them had that dysentery, so I had to help them with my roots medicine. Boy, I had some good root medicine. Got well too. Well, one day I got with the Gullah's leaders, and I says, now, if y'all want y'all feelings, you better listen to me, and you better listen to me real good, children. And they said, yes, sir. They said, now, in the morning, you're going to hear a big boom. When you hear that big boom, y'all better come running. And you better run like you ain't never ran before. They say, yes, sir. So, early the next morning, boom! Boy, them children, they come running and they was scurrying around like I ain't never seen before. Some of them had pigs under their arms. Some of them had hogs on their shoulders, boiling pots of rice on their head. And boy, they was running and they ran to them gunboats. I was in the first one. And the soldiers was in the second one. And we packed them children in everywhere we could pack them in. And when they got on that boat, they were shaking, and them children's days were scared. I had to give them some comfort, so I sang to them. Well, after a while, we got on, when the boat landed, oh my God. When that boat landed, them children's days was happy. They were singing and shouting and saying, oh Lord, thank you, Jesus. Oh, thank you, Moses. They were talking about me. They say, thank you, John Andrew. Thank you, Colonel Montgomery. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Freedom, freedom, freedom.
People of color served the Union in many other ways. They all knew what the war was about because they listened to their slave masters and mistresses. Their owners thought that the slaves were not interested. Oh, but they were. However, the slaves knew it was about them. At least that's what they thought. So the slaves never said anything. They just kept a plain face and said nothing. Let's listen to what happened at Fortress Monroe, where General Benjamin Butler was there.
That was the wife of one of the 3 contraband slaves that fled Fortress Monroe, and they was looking for General Benjamin Butler for protection. But after the Civil War ended, I found this article about a black female spy named Mary Louvestre. I will share it with you. It reads, Mary Louvestre was a free person of color. She was a housekeeper for an engineer in Norfolk, Virginia. The engineer that she worked for was in charge of the, he was in charge of the United States Merrimack, which was a Union warship. And it was captured by a rebel warship called the Virginia. One day, Mary Louvestre heard the men talking about how important their project was to harm the Union. So she stole the plans that the engineer had brought home and she fled north. After a dangerous trip to Washington, D.C., she gave the plans to the United States Department of the Navy. With the stolen plans and Mary Louvestre's verbal report on the construction, the USS Navy officials decided to speed up their construction on their own ironclad ship, the USS Monitor. The rebel ship, called the Virginia, destroyed several Union warships before the USS Ironclad Monitor was completed. But without Mary Louvestre's spying, the rebels would have destroyed even more Union warships. Mary Louvestre is remembered for her gallant act as a Union spy.
George Scott was a spy at Fortress Monroe. Let's hear about him.
Well, they call me George Scott. I'm considered a contraband. I mean, I ran away and happened to get free. So through hearsay, I heard that Benjamin Butler was taking in these contraband, taking in the knowledge they had, putting it all together. So I went to him and told him what I seen on my way down there. I seen 2 fortresses that the rebels had set up, and I told Benjamin Butler about it, but he didn't believe me because, you know, they would know what we're talking about. So he sent 2 soldiers with me to go check out what I seen. And we went down there. It took us quite a little while to get there, but we got there and I pointed out what I seen, and they had like these little things look like hills, branches and trees and things on top of them. I didn't know what I seen before. I never seen nothing like that. So I told the soldiers, yeah, you see that? And he said, yeah, we see it. We got to go report it to Benjamin Butler. So we went back and reported to Benjamin Butler, and he sent me out on one more scouting trip before we actually went on out with the soldiers. And I went out there and was trying to see what I could see, and I heard a gunshot, and it went through my jacket coat, but I didn't see nobody. I wonder how that could happen, because I never seen nothing like that. How could I get shot by a bullet and I don't see nobody? So I went and told Benjamin Butler about that incident, and he said, well, don't worry about it. We're still going to go see what we can do. So we gathered up all our soldiers the following couple of weeks. But it was according to plan, and we had some bad weather, and it started raining, and we weren't able to get all the rifles loaded. And We ended up losing that war to the rebels, but Benjamin Butler was trying to get us free, and I'm grateful that I was a part of that journey, and that's all I have to say about that.
The spies that we are talking about today were heroes, although not very well known, like William A. Jackson. When he escaped and went into a Union camp, his presence caused much excitement. When the Union officers learned that he was the former coachman for the Confederate president, Jefferson Davis. It is not known how much intelligence he shared, but he told what he had learned while serving the rebel president, William A. Jackson, a spy. When General Joseph Hooker took command at the Potomac in January 1863, he immediately saw the need for an executive, centralized, intelligent unit. When a young black man arrived at Union lines at Culpeper, Virginia, it was soon discovered that he would soon be helped as a spy. His name was Charlie Wright. Listen to his service as a Union spy. Charlie Wright.
Good afternoon. I am Elizabeth Kegley. The series of events that occurred in my life made me what I am today. A businesswoman, successful, a dressmaker, and a freedom fighter. The atrocities that have occurred in my life have ranged from when I was 4 years old all the way up until I can remember. When I was 4, the mistress beat me severely because I didn't properly take care of the children. But yet she gave me no instructions as to what to do. When I was 18, my master sent me to his son's house to help out with his extremely insecure wife. And she had her associates to beat me, teach me lessons on humility and obedience. It didn't beat me or bring me down. It made me strong and in a position where I could accomplish my life goals. I was born a slave in Dinwiddie County, Virginia in 1818. My mother was Agnes, the cook on the Burwell plantation. She was also a seamstress. My father, who I loved dearly, was George Pleasant Hobbs, a man who I highly respected even to this day. It wasn't until my mother's deathbed that I found out, though, that my actual biological father was Master Burwell of the Burwell plantation. When I became a dressmaker, my mother had showed me how to sew. And that's when I realized that I had a great talent for making and designing dresses. To the point I had a very, very profitable business, making dresses and designing dresses for elite women and women whose wives who had husbands that worked in the government. As a result of my lucrative business, I was able to purchase my freedom for my son and for myself. I want to also mention too that I was a confidant and personal dressmaker for Mary Todd Lincoln, wife of the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And we remained friends for many, many years. In 1862, I started an organization called the Contraband Relief Association. The purpose of that organization was to raise money for my brothers and sisters that were here in Washington, D.C. The emancipation, when it was passed, it brought some big changes to the United States. And slaves came in droves from the South with nothing but what they had on their backs and their big dreams of freedom. However, they were not received very well, and many did not have sympathy for their helplessness. So through my organization, I raised money to find clothes for them to wear, food to eat, and places to stay so that they could begin to help themselves. In the process of meeting with all of these slaves, I came across a very, very interesting runaway slave by the name of Charlie Wright. He was a former slave, and he was also a spy for the Union Army. What was interesting about his story was that he was very well versed on the area and the terrain of the area there. And he was able to report to General Hooker exactly what was going on and what Robert E. Lee's plans were for the Confederacy. He had found out that Robert E. Lee and the Confederate Army were planning to march to Maryland to invade the North and counted an ultimate victory for the South. Well, when General Hooker heard his information, he sent it to the BMI, which was the Bureau of Military Intelligence, to see if his information was correct. He was well versed and extremely intelligent. Got word back from the BMI that he's telling you some accurate information and it's something you might want to use for your next strategy. So what General Hooker did was he assigned the Union Army to shadow Robert E. Lee's soldiers in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The purpose was to get there first. So when the Union Army got up there into the Blue Ridge, up into the Maryland area, they landed in Gettysburg. And of course, when Robert E. Lee, thinking he was going to win, got to Gettysburg, he met the Union Army right at the door. One of the biggest battles of the Civil War. From July 1st to July 3rd, 58,000 soldiers, both Union and Confederate, lost their lives. On July the 4th, it was the battle that the Union Army won. Why did they win it? There are different reasons that people give of the success of that battle. But one major reason was the information that was given to them by Charlie Wright. And he was not only known as a runaway spy slave, but he was also known as the slave that saved the day. Thank you.
As soldiers and sailors and thousands of slaves used their energy and courage in battle, likewise did Robert Smalls. Now he was a true hero. He performed an act of extreme courage and bravery that was superseded by no one. To plan for this great act of courage, a group of slave men working on the Confederate steamer called the Planter did their planning to steal this huge Confederate ship. On one early morning in May of 1852. They did their secret planning in Robert Small's cabin. Now, you're going to hear his wife, the wife of Robert Smalls, tell how she felt as they discussed these plans in their small cabin. She even overheard her husband, Smalls, tell about his spy activities. Yes, his spy activities after he became the pilot of the Planter. Mrs. Roberts Smalls. I'm Hannah Jones Small, wife of Robert Small, pilot of the Planter. I was a hotel enslaved maid. My husband, a free man, worked on the harbor of Charleston. We had 2 children. He had to pay my master $5 a month just for the privilege of marriage and family. But he worked hard trying to earn enough money to free his family. Finding that nearly impossible, he and 8 slave crewmen started meeting at my house, plotting a way of escape for their families. I could hear them very well, as they talked and met in my house. My, I said, this is an extremely dangerous mission. I was scared to death. I was scared for them, I was scared for us, but freedom. I knew if we were caught, we would all be shot to death. But then early in May, the captain and his white counterparts left to go in town for an overnight stay. On that early morning, my husband put on the captain's straw hat, put on his jacket, and they eased their way through. He knew the sickness, he knew the colds, and when they got to open water, my. That rebel flag that was hanging, I took it down. I had hid in my basket a white sheet that I lifted up as a truth flag. And then when the captain got on board the ship, oh my, we could taste freedom. We knew then that our way had been made. You should have saw us coming out of that hole. So many of us coming and shouting and just feeling overjoyed at the possibility now of freedom. And so the ship was given to the Union Navy, and they paid my husband and the 8 crewmen, for we bought ammunition and all kinds of things on the boat with us. Later on, my husband was hired to work for the Navy as a wheelman, because black at that time could not be called pilots. But an incident happened. A rebel attack occurred, and the captain of the ship left the wheel and went under to hide. And my husband stepped up, and the boat was eased out of the capture. That's when he was made the pilot of the Planter. Then another incident happened. With such intelligence, such knowledge, he made a good spy. He was able to help capture Fernandina, Florida harbor, which was a strategic port during the Civil War. Yes, voices of pride. My husband, voices of pride. His intelligence, our freedom. Thank you. Thank you. Voices of pride. Freedom. Freedom. My husband, Robert Small.
anti-slavery activist, journalist, publisher, first black woman publisher, teacher, lawyer, graduate of Howard Law School, and recruiter. My name is Mary Ann Shad. I was born October 9, 1823 in Wilmington, Delaware. And during that time, it was against the law to teach blacks. So my parents took me to Pennsylvania, and they placed me in a boarding school, in a Quaker boarding school. And I stayed there for 6 years. I was 10 years old when I went there, and I stayed there for 10 years. I stayed there for 6 years. And when I left there, I went back to Wilmington at the age of 16, and I opened up my own private school. After I went back to Delaware, my brother Isaac and I, we fled to Canada. And the reason why we fled to Canada was because of that Fugitive Slave Act. I kept a copy of that. Fugitive slaves. And it read, attention, the slave hunter is among us. Be on your guard. An arrest is planned for tonight. Be ready to receive them whenever they come. Can you believe that? That Fugitive Slave Act, it was a pair of federal laws that allowed for the capture and return of runaway slaves within the territory of the United States, enacted by Congress in 1793. The first Fugitive Slave Act authorized the local governments to seize and return escaped slaves to their owners and impose penalties to anyone who aided them in their flight. Well, let me tell you, while I was in Canada, I had the opportunity to meet 3 contrabandists, and they told me their story. They told me how they were treated, and then they went to the Union camp. And when they got there, they became drivers. They called them teamsters. Well, they drove the wagons. They fixed wagon wheels. They even cooked. They scoured for food as far as digging up potatoes. They did whatever they needed to do to help the soldiers. Well, I met one of the contrabands, and we became close friends. His name is Simon, and he's here with us today. Listen to Simon, if you will.
Hello, I'm Simon, and folks said that was a contraband. I didn't know what that meant when I first heard of it, but they said there's something about people who was slaves and went away to help the Union Army. When they get caught, they'd be called contraband, something about war. But in them days, before that, I was down on the farm, and it was hard work working on them farms down there. But after the work, this thing called war started up, it got a little bit easier for us on the farms and on the plantations, because the master and the overseers, they all left mostly, and so we didn't have anybody there to beat us up, made us do things that really was too hard for us to do, no matter I had to do it anyway or die. So we just hung around until we stayed there and got enough to eat, doing mostly nothing. Then we kind of heard about somebody was going toward the Union Army. They said there was a camp nearby, and if we got there, we might be able to help them out a little bit. So we went there, and I got there. It was okay, except they didn't treat us too much better than some of the slave masters. But some did it pretty good. And then we started to work. We happened to drive the big boat, drive the big horses around. Horses was the thing that I really liked, because I like horses. And we drove them wagons too, with a lot of heavy load on them, take stuff off of them. One of the things I remember most is we had to help them dig the graves. Graves for those soldiers who died. And there was a lot of digging them graves was hard work too. Of course, when we died, wasn't nobody there to dig our grave but us. And we got buried out in the woods, not in the big camps, cemetery-like places where the soldiers was buried. But nonetheless, we did the best we could. Some of it was, I seen a lot of people there who were pretty good at blacksmithing and making camp things for cooking. Some of them good cooks, some of them good drivers, some of them helped people move out when it was time to move. The tents, the little tents that they slept in, had to be moved sometime. When the new ones come in, they had to dig places for them. We have them out, of course. Finally, I kind of made my way out of there. I got up towards some place called BC or something, and I heard about going north. And they said up north, toward Canada, some place they call. They said they might have me a little bit better. So I went up there, got there, working hard all the way. Up in that Canada land, they treated us a little better, some of them. And of course, there's a few that didn't treat us much better than the slaves. But all in all, it was better working up there than it was working down for the massa, just to keep a good peace with us so we wouldn't be beat up too bad. When we left there, we left all our family. Most of them never saw them again. Hope that they got okay after we left. But it was tough to leave anyway. But on the way, I could see a lot of men working with them Union soldiers. And they were happy to do it. Some of them died doing it too because they got sick. Wasn't much help for them. Didn't have no doctor or nurses to help them out. Didn't have no money either. But all in all, we was happy to leave them places and get out to Canada, stay there, and try to help ourselves, maybe help ourselves to send back some money one of the days, sometime by somebody we might know, to get back to down south. But it was a good time to work for ourselves, because we never got to work for ourselves down there on the plantation. So I think that being that contraband was pretty good overall, and I'm glad I did it.
The men who are remembered in the history of the Civil War are the generals, the officers, and even the news about the battles, who won, who lost. But equal recognition is due to the Negro spies for their service. Much intelligence was gathered, much intelligence was delivered by them, the spies, the Negro spies. Spying, smuggling, and sabotaging all were aspects of the Civil War. Each side in the conflict had its version of the Secret Service, and both made use of undercover operatives. The spies introduced today were staunch supporters of the Union. Listen to this husband and wife story as told by the wife.
You probably have heard of my husband, Dabney, D-A-B-N-E-Y. He was a slave. Are you able to hear me? I'll be moving from side to side. My husband, Dabney, D-A-B-N-E-Y. Well, I'm his wife, of course. I'm Dabney.
We are free people of color, but we were once slaves. And I came today to share with you what it was like being a spy and a slave. Now, we had a unique situation. We decided that we didn't want to live on the plantation any longer. So we crossed over the river, close to Fredericksburg, Virginia, Rappahannock River. It was in 1863 when we left that plantation. We entered the camp of General Hooker. You heard of General Hooker today. My husband was assigned the duties of cook and a body servant. Now, I decided not very long after we were there that I wanted to go back across the river. I had heard that that sea chef woman needed a cook, and I was going to be a cook for her. General Hooker did not object. My husband did not object. So I went back across the river. Now, when I got there, it was not like I thought it was going to be. I ended up at the Confederate Army camp there in Richmond. And I was a cook and a laundress. Well, I didn't let that get me down. I decided my services could be used on the other side of the river, even though I was not there. My husband knew the terrain of the area very well. He was able to give military intelligence to General Hooker's men. He knew the area, so his information was accurate. And all of the troops wanted to know, how could he give such accurate information and timely? Well, we had a plan. We had a clothesline secret that was not in any books. So he took one of his officers down by the river, and he said, look across the river at that little cabin. Do you see that clothesline? Well, in a half an hour, that clothesline can tell me everything that's going on at the Lee's camp. Officer could not believe it. And you probably can't either. But I will share with you how it worked. This clothesline code. I would sit around after cooking and doing the laundry, hang the clothes on the line, listening for any information that would be helpful to the Union troops. If I heard something about movement, I would go down to the clothesline and move the clothes around. This gray shirt belonged to Longstreet. And if I took it off the line, that meant they were down by Richmond. Now, there were other shirts too. This white shirt belonged to A.P. Hill, and it was on the west. But if I moved it a little bit, that meant they had moved upstream. Now, the red shirt belonged to Stonewall Jackson. And as the movements occurred, I would move the red shirt right along. And my husband knew exactly what to do. He relayed all that information to the Union troops, and they were surprised. Within a half an hour, they knew exactly what was going on in the Lee's camp. Now, clothesline codes have been used since the American Revolutionary War, but nobody used it like the Dabneys. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to introduce to you a storyteller, a professional storyteller, author, playwright, genealogist, the founder of the Voices of Pride, a reenactor and director of this program that you are watching this morning. I would like to introduce to you Mrs. Mary Fears. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say hello to everyone and thank you again for being present. And I want to say this. Much of what you heard this morning you have not read in the usual history books about the Civil War. But what we have done as Voices of Pride reenactors, we have done the research and we have proof for what we have learned. And we have not only talked about it, but we have on display at our tent over there as many of the photographs of these spies as we could find. Because many times they mention blacks in the books, but they don't tell what we have done. So as reenactors, what we do, we document all that we learn and we display as much as we can in our tent. So our speaker here is going to invite you to our tent, and when you go back to wherever, if you have children or grandchildren, bring them to Olustee next year so they can learn that black people did not pick cotton. They did not all pick cotton. And if they come to Olustee and see these programs and the displays and see the reenactors, they will learn a lot that's left out of the school textbooks. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for your presence at our program. We hope that it has been enjoyable, informative, and exciting for you for this hour for your listening pleasure. We want to take this time right now to cordially invite each and every one of you to come visit our tent, Voices of Pride Reenactor. We would like to speak with you, possibly take pictures with you, and discuss further our characters. And also, we would like for you to view our displays, and you all know that you have an open invitation from the director herself. So we want to continue to visit Olustee, and we would like for you to continue to visit Olustee. Bring a family member, bring friends next year. Thank you all very much for your presence here today at our Battle of Olustee 2020 program.
This place where the Bible says that the worm dieth not, where the pain is so intense that those who go there gnaw at their own tongue. It is so hot that thirst is such a concern that your tongue will swell in your mouth to close off your throat. And your mind will be so convinced that it will believe that just the tip, just one little drop of water on the tip of a finger.
I don't know if we actually have one. We did have them.
Now that's where people have kind of dropped the second idea that they were hold and destroy. Because of the fact that there was no damage.
Well, the submarine during the first, they had the first attack. Yeah.
I have a feeling that these would be good steel for our.
Probably are. Well, if you look, a lot of the stuff that's what the remains of.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Any questions, you're welcome to ask. I'm just kind of tinkering, replacing things as I saw it.
It's just fun to watch.
Sometimes I start tuning out the crowd and just focusing on my work. Yeah. You can lose track of time easily doing this.
I'll bet.
I'm starting a blade. I pointed it, and I'm taking some of the metal off so I don't have to grind it and waste it.
How old is that?
Do you have a grindstone here?
You got there?
Not here. This whole rig is about 20 years old. I based it off photos and drawings from the colonial time period.
I'm not thinking well to be sitting there for like an hour.
Much older than that. I said it looks much older than that.
Yeah, combination of soot and travel. That and it's always in a really dry environment, so the wood really shrunk. It's got that old look.
We have all the kids wanting to play with things, so.
The biggest thing is you got to replace the canvas every 3 or 4 years. Because it's constantly flexing, it breaks down the fabric.
Where do you get that kind of?
Plus all the kids want to be going.
Traditionally, you would just get it from the Navy. They would give you your old sails because they get a rip in it and it's still useful to me.
Yeah.
I just get some painter's canvas.
Some kids are
usually does a good job.
The chainmail, the steel chainmail. And
if you really wanted to make it super airtight, you can take like Thompson's tar steel and paint it on there, and it just gives it that film in between the threads.
Yeah.
It also keeps it from molding.
Is that Thompson just paint it with a brush?
Yeah. You don't want really the spray stuff. Because what you're actually doing is saturating the threads.
Yeah. And I'm just no hippie, but sure, don't me. Look at she does. Might as well survey, that's where your tripod truck gets right. So we have to get over corner of the van.
Yeah, at 3:30.
It's just like, as you know.
I'll put a frame on it. Okay. If you can get a mat around that, that'll be fine. Okay. Timer just went off. Okay.
Yeah. Park service is real good. That's the guy who showed up. Isn't it then? The shotgun.
All right.
And I'm wearing a green coat.
I'll go get the plate.
Marcy still got coat.
want to move up closer toward the flagpole, you'll be able to hear the names of all the Confederates killed or wounded in this action. Battalion, attention!
Company, uncover.
I'm gonna face this way, y'all. These gentlemen have heard what I'm fixing to say many times before. In February of 1864, the Confederate Army got wind that the Union was trying to cut off the state of Florida from the Confederacy. It severed the rail line from Jacksonville all the way to Tallahassee. The nearest troops available in any concentration were in Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. They had those men get in rail cars, flatbed cars, and ship them from those two areas in February in freezing weather here to the town of Lake City, Florida, to meet that Union threat. And on February the 20th, 1864, the engagement known as the Battle of Ocean Pond, or the Battle of Olustee, Florida, took place. There were approximately 5,000 Confederate troops and 5,000 Union troops that engaged in that battle. At the end of the fight, approximately 1,100 Union soldiers were dead or wounded or missing in action, and approximately 1,000 Confederate forces were either killed, wounded, or missing. Both sides lost almost 1/5 of their men engaged. Many years ago, I was trying to find out where those men were buried down here. So some of them were comrades of my ancestors. And I talked to the Park Service, and they said in the 1940s, 90 was paid, and the Confederate burials were disinterred, and they were sent to be reinterred in the Lake City Cemetery. The next year I came down here and was with my reenactment group, and I stepped in the hole Friday night and hurt my knee and couldn't march. So I asked my captain if it'd be permissible for me to leave that event. We normally went to the parade, and I go to the Confederate cemetery down there and record these names. He graciously allowed me that permission. I allotted myself about 2 hours, took pen and paper down there. I got to the cemetery, walked in the cemetery, and realized I'd vastly allotted myself too much time. There was one marked Confederate grave, and all the rest were marked unknown CSA. I spent those 2 hours with them, contemplating what I read about what they did on this battlefield here down here. Several regiments had run out of ammunition, had fixed the bayonet, and went to the knees, and under heavy fire said, "They shall not pass," and they paid dearly for it. They finally were resupplied with ammunition, restocked their cartridge boxes, and drove the Union from the field, thus saving the state of Florida for another year. When I got home, more and more I thought about it. I said, those men need to at least have their names remembered. It took me 6 years, but I've been able to identify all of those who were killed down here or died of their wounds. There's only one I haven't been able to find because of the record. And that is why we're here today, to remember those men and at least have their names remembered and called today. Ladies and gentlemen, the roll of honor of the Confederate dead from the Battle of Olustee. 6th Regiment, Georgia Volunteer Infantry.
Tate Branch, Private Company A. Avera Josiah, Private Company C. Cootie Benjamin N., Private Company D. Harvey Albert G., Private Company D. Who James B., Private Company D. Richardson Oliver P., Company Commissary Company H. Stansel N.W., Private Company H. Coombs William H., Second Lieutenant Company I. Kitchens David H., Private Company I.
19th Regiment, Georgia Volunteer Infantry.
Johnson William H., First Lieutenant Company C. Harrison J. H., Private Company D. Jordan A. H., Private Company E. Cooper William S., Private Company F. Priestley John, Private Company F. Williams James R., Private Company F. Morris Darling D., Private Company G. Presley J., Private Company H. Yarborough Benjamin Jr., Second Lieutenant Company H.
23rd Regiment, Georgia Volunteer Infantry.
Coster Thomas P., Private Company A. Bentley G.M., Private Company A. Dempsey John W., Private Company F. Brooke N.C., Private Company G. Burgess John, Private Company G. Pritchett James R., Second Lieutenant Company I. Lewis George W., Private Company K.
27th Regiment, Georgia Volunteer Infantry.
Hargrove Samuel, Private Company B. Parker William, Private Company B. Purdue G.W., Private Company B. Poole Isaac, Private Company B. Avera James W., Sergeant Company C. Merritt Michael, Private Company C. Sawyer Julius T., Private Company C. Creel Leroy J., Private Company E. Foster W.M., Private Company E. Hart Josiah, Private Company E. Barfield Wesley, Private Company F. Holland W. Green, Private Company F. Williams Josiah N., Private Company G. Cooner John, Private Company I. Carlisle James, Sergeant Company K. Thomas William C., Private Company D. Hale Francis Marion, Private Company H.
28th Regiment, Georgia Volunteer Infantry.
Bedgood William H., Musician Company A. Bush J.F., Private Company A. Amerson Leroy, Private Company B. Carey Joseph, Private Company B. Phillips Albert J., Second Sergeant Company E. Amerson John L., Private Company H. Fountain Allen, Private Company I. Hayden Samuel, Private Company I. Tiffany A.S., Regimental Ensign Company I.
32nd Regiment, Georgia Volunteer.
Alexander John C., Private Company A. Jones Ansley L., Private Company A. Lane Barfield, Private Company A. Lewis Robert C., Private Company A. High Lexington O., Private Company A. Renfield G.D., Private Company A. Russell John, Private Company A. Stone John W., Private Company A. Weatherly George, Private Company A. Godby S.E., Second Sergeant Company C. Dewberry J., Private Company D. Hood W.W., Private Company E. Thigpen John, Private Company G. Warnock Drury S., Private Company G. Harvey Albert G., Private Company H. Middlebrooks Calvin, Private Company H. Stokes Robert S., Private Company H. Cox O. Perry, Private Company I. Griggers A. Jack, Private Company I. Langley William, Private Company I. Mitchell James, Private Company I. Monman Jerry D., Private Company I. Newell A.J., Private Company I.
64th Regiment, Georgia Volunteer Infantry.
Barrow James, Lieutenant Colonel, 64th Regiment. Pace George R., Commissary Sergeant, Company A. Jones Nathaniel L., Private, Company C. Harvey William T.F., Private, Company D. Strickland Henry, Private, Company E. Waller Peleus A., First Lieutenant, Company H. Murphy Doc, Private, Company H. Murphy John, Private, Company H. Scoggins George W., Private, Company A. Bradley John R., 3rd Corporal, Company H. Fletcher Thomas, Private, Company H.
1st Regiment, Georgia Regulars.
Cannon Henry A., Captain, Company C. McMullen Jordan J., Private, Company M.
Captain Gary Arty's Battery, Georgia Light Artillery.
No casualties.
Captain Wheaton's Company, Georgia Artillery, Chatham Artillery.
No casualties.
28th Battalion, Georgia Artillery, Barnard Battalion.
Holland W.W., Lieutenant. Bryant William A., Sergeant, Company A. Driver B.F., Private, Company B. Gray John H., Private, Company E. Griffin John W., Private, Company A. Hamilton James A., Private, Company C. Henson John O., Private, Company I. Lindsay Garrett, Private, Company C. Mott Jesse, Private, Company E. Murphy John W., Private, Company C. Nix Lewis, Private, Company C. Pearson Winlock, Private, Company D. Rogers Daniel, Company D. Sanderland Robert, Private, Company B. Stanford James R., Private, Company C. Stockdale John, Private, Company G. Tally Obadiah J., Private, Company A. Waldrop Lee J., Private, Company E. Weaver and Noach, Private, Company D.
4th Regiment, Georgia Cavalry, Clinches. One enlisted man whose name has not been found. 1st Florida Battalion.
Arnold Samuel, Private, Company E. Chitty John E., Private, Company E. Davis A.H., Private, Company G. Jen Charles W., Private. High Daniel, Private, Company A. Long Cornelius, Corporal, Company C. Stewart James M., Private.
2nd Florida Battalion.
Holland W.W., Lieutenant.
6th Florida Battalion.
Barbara John, Private, Company E. Carter Thomas, Private, Company C. Connor Alfred, Private, Company G. Curry Joseph K., Private, Company C. Duger Robinson B., Company G. Gant David C., Private, Company C. Garland Marshall, 2nd Sergeant, Company C. Geiger James M., Private, Company I. Grantham John, 2nd Corporal, Company C. Hill Thomas J., 2nd Lieutenant, Company C. Kilsby Ira D., 3rd Corporal, Company D. Lewis Philip J., Private, Company G. Manning William D., Private, Company F. McNeil John, Captain, Company I. Paget John, Private, Company D. Holt Hardy, Private, Company E. Rhymes David, Sergeant. Terrell John R., Private, Company I. Wallace Thomas J., Private, Company K. Young Joseph, Lieutenant, Company D.
Florida Staff Officer.
Dancy Robert Francis, 2nd Lieutenant, Infantry of Florida.
Gambler's Florida Artillery Battery, Leon Light Artillery.
Atkinson Craven, Gun Corporal. Smith M.B., Private.
Company B, Milton Florida Light Artillery, Able Florida Artillery.
McLean William, Private. Thomas Charles F., Private.
2nd Regiment, Florida Cavalry.
No casualties.
5th Battalion, Florida Cavalry.
No casualties.
Florida Conscript Company.
Boyd, J.A. Holland, Nathaniel W., Private. Tharp, Harmon, Private. Taylor M., Private. Waller, Gulford, Private. Woody W., Private.
Attention, company. Stubborn. Joined up. Armed. Present. Armed. Joined up. Armed. Order. Armed.
Ladies, we thank y'all for your attendance here and your remembrance to these men who sacrificed their lives in defense of the South. We believe this is our honor and our privilege to remember them for what they did. To live in the hearts of those who leave behind, is to live forever. And we hope their names and their remembrance will always be held in high esteem. Thank you all for your attendance.
Reenactment, attention! Gentlemen, thank you for giving me the honor to be with you today to remember our ancestors, both yours and mine. I salute you. Captain?
Details dismissed. Thank you, gentlemen.
I ask you this morning, will you accept that gift of God's love and forgiveness? To do so is to turn from your sin, to repent of those sins, and to trust by faith in His shed blood for the remission of those sins. That's the only way. God said that without the shedding of blood there is no remission of sins, and the shedding of animals' blood never saved the Jewish nation. It only rolled the sin forward. But we have a better sacrifice, and that's Jesus Christ. And God is willing to save, and will save us to the uttermost. So my friends, I ask you this morning, with every head bowed and every eye closed, nobody looking around, nobody getting up and leaving the service, I want to ask you this morning, just with an uplifted hand, how many would say, "Preacher, would you pray for me? I never truly realized just how much God loved me." Would you pray? Would you pray for me, preacher? You'll just slip your hand up and slip it down. Yes, God bless you. God bless you. Yes, God bless you. God bless you. Now I want to ask you, I'm not going to come to you. I'm not going to embarrass you in any way. But I truly want to pray for you. How many this morning, just with an uplifted hand, would say, "Preacher, I'm not sure of heaven, but I want to be, and I realize that I can only enter because of God's love. Would you pray for me that I will get saved before it's too late?" Just pray for me. Yes, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Can we stand, please, with our heads bowed, our eyes closed? 7 pounds of bacon coming to do an invitation. Those of you that raised your hands after I pray, you want to truly, truly know that God is forgiving your sins. We have a lady with a lady and a man with a man up front who will take their Bibles and show you in just a few moments how you can know you're saved and you're on your way to heaven, and we would deem it a great honor to welcome you into the family of God. Father in heaven, we thank you, Father, for this service. We thank you for your love. And oh, how great that love is. Father, still, as much as we have studied it, have heard about it, have read about it, Father, we still have just barely touched the edge. Oh, Father, your love is so great and so boundless. And we thank you for Jesus this morning. So, Father, please, I pray you'd move on each and every heart this morning. And Father, if there is one here this morning that truly wants to be a child of yours, Father, may they step out and come. Father, if there are Christians that have grown cold, and Father, not exhibiting that love, that light that you give, I pray they'll come forward also. Father, with every head bowed and every eye closed, you need to come. You just come. You just come. We're not going to prolong. But if you want to know you're on your way to heaven, you just come. I'm going to pray a prayer from here. And I know that some of you have never been in a service like this and you've never seen a public invitation or experienced one. But I'm going to pray a prayer just like we would pray if you came forward. And if you want to know for sure that you're going to heaven, you pray this prayer. Now, there are no magic words in this prayer. It's what's in the heart. And if you truly mean it in your heart, God will save you where you stand. I'm going to ask a few Christians to pray out loud so these others will not be embarrassed. So pray with me. And I ask you, please, you pray this prayer after the service. Please bring your hymnal up front to put it in the box, and that we may shake your hand, pray with you, and give you a little booklet that we have written to help you with your new walk of faith. Let's pray. God in heaven, I realize now that my sins have separated me from you. And I realize that you loved me enough that you still left the portals of glory, born of a virgin, died on an old cruel cross, shed your blood that my sins could be forgiven. God, I ask you, please, forgive me of my sins. Send Jesus to come live in my heart. Save my soul. And help me to walk this new life of faith through your power. In Jesus' name I pray. And call you Father. Amen. If you prayed that prayer for the first time and meant it in your heart, can you just encourage this old preacher? Slip your hand up and say, yes, preacher, I prayed that prayer. Yes, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. All right. I'm going to ask Brother John, please, to close us out in a word of prayer. Please don't forget our ushers at the exits, and to come over to our tent and get some of the tracts. And we will get the hymnals picked up. And Pete Whitehair, who is a great, great historian. I mean, this guy, well, he was back with Columbus. He was so far back. So what he writes about, he experienced. But he's a great speaker, and you will be amazed at his talk. John, close us out, please.
Father, thank you for the day. Thank you for your blessings. And thank you for the word, Father. Father, I pray and trust now that you are dealing with people's hearts as we speak, that you'll just convict them. Father, if there's some souls really bothered about this, they come over to the tent. Let's talk, Father. Move upon their hearts. And I pray and ask on the authority of the shed blood of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Amen.
said, it's early. It's early.
I expect reports regularly. Headquarters needs to know whether or not people
I'm not worried about reports right now, okay? I'm worried about these men. I want these men.
We don't know when a
fighting
counterattack
again.
is going to happen. I need numbers. I expect
I'll give you
reports
numbers.
forwarded immediately. Is that understood, sir?
I need time. Okay, I need time.
You'll be in my report.
Okay, sir.
Hold this here. Let me see.
Go ahead. Just burn it up.
Yeah, I need my pro, please, nerd.
I saw someone else coming behind us, but he's real bad. I couldn't stay
You're
behind.
gonna be okay. All right. Once I get this out, you're gonna.
I don't know where it went now. I don't know.
Because if you don't, you're gonna bleed out for me. Nurse, here, hold this.
I'll hold you, man. I'll hold you. I'll hold you.
Hold tight.
They're getting the bullet.
Hold pressure on here. Hold pressure. I don't want you to bleed out.
They're getting the bullet out.
Nurse, those sutures, please. Quick.
Nurse, can I be of help?
Yes, sir. I need help with this boy holding him down while
Lift
he's
your
a
hand up
suture.
here. Hold on. Let me suture you up here a little bit.
How you doing, sweetie?
Lift your thumb. Lift your thumb, soldier. Lift your thumb. Thank you.
I don't know if I like being in the waiting room.
Kind of noisy. Nurse, please bandage him. Quickly.
As soon as they're done with it, slide him back. Here, slide him back up.
Everybody got your cards? Yes, drop off.
Be quiet. I have a thing going
Okay.
Put your weapon down, Sarge.
Yeah, lay him down. He's going to be fine.
I got this.
He's going to be fine.
Stop laughing.
Oh, come on. You've seen worse.
I don't know this. I don't know where he came from exactly. I know he's with our unit.
What? He's with your. What unit are you with?
Well, we can search his wallet and see where it came from.
Search his wallet.
Yeah, let's search his wallet. That's what we'll do. We'll find out where it came from.
Oh, he's going to come back.
Oh, Lord mercy, you are rich.
Shut up, son.
He's with the 17th. I don't know. Don't know.
No, this is the code. Come on.
Get a hold of your Get a hold of your You'll be okay. You didn't lose that much blood. You're going to fight again. What is your name?
And what's wrong with you, man?
How
bad did you get it?
He got consumption.
No, I went out there with consumption and it got worse.
What is your name, son?
My name's Jason.
What company are you with?
No, I'm from 17 Connecticut. Just like this gentleman right here.
I think I need to have you take care of this.
Soldier, take something for that. Give him some whiskey for that. Where's there?
Gentlemen, you have 2 cards. Hold them up with your left.
Up on this side here, up on this stick. Put your rear end up against there. Lay back down.
Doc, no.
You actually made it around.
I can't feel the leg, Doc.
No wonder. No wonder you can't feel it. Get his information quickly.
Hey, where are you from? I'm supposed to ask you where you're from. Connecticut. Oh, I know you. I recognize you. What happened to you?
Oh no.
What is your name, son?
He's with 17th Connecticut.
He's with 17th Connecticut.
What's his name?
Certainly good place to go. Problem with that is they get mixed up with last year's cars. That's why I put them out last year. Yeah, I gotta get rid of last year.
That's Ryan. How old is he? We're gonna give him
17, 18.
16.
No,
Give him
16.
whiskey.
16 years old.
16, no whiskey. No whiskey. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. I know it hurts. You're gonna be all right.
That's the subtle mistake.
Try to save that leg.
Doc, you better save the leg.
Try to save
You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. Man. Just keep your hand down. Keep your hand down. Don't move. Don't move because it's time to get the bullet out.
Rear rank, right about face. Arm.
Oh, no, stop! Just tell me what's wrong with me already!
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
Oh, God!
Go talk to him.
Oh, doctor!
It's okay. It's okay.
We're gonna need him.
Oh, God!
Because
Oh, God, Doc, what's wrong?
Don't look.
Oh, Doc!
Don't tell me.
Oh,
We need a
God!
hospital.
Soldier, I need help here.
Oh, God! Doc, what's wrong with my
Lay
leg?
down. Okay. This we gotta console me. Soldier, listen to me. Listen to me. Okay. Listen carefully. Okay. Nurse.
Yes. This is
Doc, please.
Okay. I need.
Okay.
Hold his leg.
No, I've got to help him. Okay.
Oh,
I've got to help him.
Doc.
I treat everyone. Okay. Soldier, listen to me.
Oh, God!
I looked at that leg. Okay. There's nothing left below the knee.
Watch your bayonets on the fly.
Right across.
Rear rank, right about face.
Do you understand? There's nothing left of your leg. You're not feeling anything. There's nothing left of there. That has to come off. That leg has to come off.
Oh, you ain't taking my leg!
Hold it!
You ain't taking my leg!
Nurse!
You ain't taking
Chloroform him! Chloroform him!
Make him hurt, Doc.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Okay.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, soldier.
There's 8 guards.
We got tourniquet on real tight?
Yes, I have
Good.
it on. Okay.
Okay. Slide down just a wee little bit. Okay. I'm gonna need my scalpel in here.
Here, which one is that? That's okay. I'll come and get it.
Okay. Got it.
Shoulder, arms. Close ranks, march.
How's the pulse? Pulse is good. Okay, nurse, you ready? Got it on. Flash me. Okay, we need to sew this artery shut or cauterize it. Let's sew it. I can see it right here. Let me clamp it.
It's 11 o'clock, man. I missed the game.
This is why you don't put these in your house.
Hat line real nice.
You can't. I'm going to stack on. Shoulder arm. Right shoulder shift. Arm.
Okay, nurse. My scalpel, please. Go the rest of the way through. Okay.
What's your name, sir?
Okay, I'm through. He looks like he's got a strong bone. Did you get his information? How old is he?
He's 22.
Okay, he's got a strong, good, strong-looking bone. He's going to be fine. Okay. Okay, I'm going to cut through the bone right now. You have a hold of it, nurse?
He will. He's almost done with the first patient.
I'm going to need that file and file the bone down so it doesn't penetrate through the flesh. Okay, I'm through. Okay, nurse, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'll need the sutures. We got more wounded coming in?
Yes, we have two.
We got two more? Okay. Okay, done. Nurse. Yes, let's get that. Get that bandage on there, please.
Shoulder arm. Step forward arm. Shoulder arm.
Okay, you've got some more wounded here.
Where?
After this.
Okay.
There's a man behind you. There's a man.
There's one passed out.
Okay. He's done. Let's put that Maltese cross bandage on there, please.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Okay. We have this soldier here. He looks like he's wounded
This
in the
one's
arm.
passed out, so we need to get him first.
We'll get him. I'll get this wounded, this soldier here. Has he had whiskey?
Not yet.
Okay.
Give him some whiskey.
Arms forward. Shoulder arm. Present arm. Shoulder arm. Shoulder arm. Parade rep. Dead scum.
Where's my pan? Soldier, have you had whiskey? How old are you? What group are you with?
28.
Okay, do we have his information?
Yes, right here.
Okay, good.
He is.
Oh, you're going to be okay. I can tell you that right now. You're going to be just fine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, lower your arm down just a little bit. Thank you. Okay. Where's my pan? Oh, on the ground right there. Grab that, nurse, please.
Stack arm. Go smooth, smooth and fast. You don't take, you got hold up. Alright, same guy. Alright, you're good. Same guy. You're good. Pulling it through, pal. Pulling it through. Calm. Do it again.
I'm going to stitch you up here. How much did that go? Okay.
Is he selling or is he setting up?
I got 40.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the right away. Hell, it got Ron and I out of duty though.
So you're yelling at the guys about elevating a couple times? Other than that,
On here. Pressure on here. You're going to be just fine. Got one more. Yes, got one more.
I don't know how that looked in the rear.
Yeah, Daddy's carrying his arm. Put it right on here. Okay, put it on here, guys.
Might be time to show the instrument.
Sure. This is a cornet.
Okay.
This is Terry without any lips.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Confederate skirmishers are sent out to locate the approaching Union force. The skirmishers spot Union cavalry and skirmishers from the 7th Connecticut Infantry who are armed with repeating rifles. The Confederates then return to their lines.
Come on, right. Okay, forward. We're good, guys. Move forward. Forward. Reload. Address your line. Right. Hold the plan.
Close proximity with all face-to-face.
Everybody took their jet over there, and everybody went over there.
Yeah, and the other, you would think that if they kept going out here, then they probably would have.
Well, they were just feeling each other out, and then they put it in a bigger group. And then the cavalry came, and they formed up into a square formation, because that was a formation that you used to fight on the cavalry. They don't know what's on this side yet. They've seen the cavalry, now they make the square.
They make the square.
Confederate troops expecting to face Union cavalry form a square, a tactic designed for defense against cavalry.
Third quarter, guard against cavalry. Keep loading, Corporal Bluger!
Load!
Go!
Sorry, sir, I was pulled away by the lieutenant.
Gun number 2's ready! Fire! Load!
Load! Shell 400 yards!
Come on! Get that round in there! Give it to him, John!
Ready!
With the Confederate infantry off the field, the Confederate artillery is brought up. So keep an eye on your left and put in those earplugs.
Fire! Firing by section! Section! Firing by section! Section! Fire!
been done. They're under something blowing. Their trumpets are calling the troops up. And they're blowing the troops. You hear the trumpets? They're down there.
Look through the trees and the smoke on the left, you see the Confederate infantry coming onto the field. Union General Seymour, believing he was facing only a small number of Florida militia, did not commit enough troops to the battle. Also, some officers were inexperienced, which led to confusion. The 8th U.S. Colored Troops on the Union left was one of the first units in the battle. They had little training and some had never fired their muskets.
Rewind the film.
Second company.
I'm the shoulder when loaded, first company.
Ready. Right wing, arms, forward, march. Slow down.
forward and back.
Now you fire by rank. Rear rank, ready. Rear rank. Fire.
Confederate troops. The Confederates are now running out of ammunition. The Union force advances, believing the battle will be won. Runners are sent to the rear and a makeshift supply line is formed.
Fall back! Fall back! Fall back!
5, the Confederates resumed their devastating fire upon the Union forces. 54th Massachusetts Infantry moves up and takes position on the Union left to protect the retreating army. died there from disease and starvation. After the battle, the defeated Union force returned to Jacksonville where it remained until the end of the war, just 14 months later in April 1865. In a few minutes, the bugler will play tap, so we ask that you remain silent. The troops will then form up in front of the bleachers for the final volley. Thank you for visiting the battlefield today. Retreats to Jacksonville. When the Union retreat began around 6 p.m., there were 1,861 Union and 946 Confederate soldiers killed, wounded, or missing. The defeated Union force remained in Jacksonville until the end of the war, just 14 months later, April 1865. Please remain silent while the bugler plays taps.
We have some there.
Troops will now form up in front of you for a final volley. Let's give them a hand. They are all volunteers.
Left!
Eyes left, gentlemen. Yeah, that was good. Service.
Good job, guys. Thank you. Gave you 3 chances. Thank you, guys. Good job. Thanks.
Does it fit in here? That one got hit.
I'm done.
Why did you got hit? Leave a nurse here.
Look back and see how far the colors were. I'm like way ahead of them. Yeah. Right where you belong, don't you?
Thank you. Good job.
Are they going in first? It should be like that.
Thanks.
That's pretty good. You want to do 50? To the end of this column. Faces to the rear. Faces to the rear. March.
I did what I could. There was a lot of them out there on the field. With today, how the heat was and everything like that, I was more making sure that those wounded were okay and watered up. Sir? Thank you, sir. Order! Oh!
So these are the Confederates, and this is the Union here.
Is this the end of the line, Major?
Buddy just ran away. Alright. You guys want to ground it? You know what? We're gonna close down. Close down to them a little bit. We're not all the way in front. Are we good around? Yeah, you're fine right there. Okay. Yeah, let's stack them.
Oh, have them stay. You mark it, Gene. When you're ready, we'll bring them up.
Good job, you guys. Excellent.
It's my pleasure to turn the program over to General Tom Jesse, Commander of the Confederate Forces, and Union Commander General Jesse Permain. James Permain.
Tyler, bring him up, sir. Music, come on.
Alright, let's wheel up the right face and
forward!
Let's go.
March!
Thank you for coming out and attending the 155th
Union General James Permain and Confederate General Tom Jesse will take command of the troops.
Yeah, you're good. Prepare to hold! Hold!
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am General Tom Jesse of the Confederate reenactors that you saw on this field today. Standing next to Permain, commanding the Federal reenactors. You should probably understand that blue and gray are built the same.
Backwards,
we're all Americans. Out on this field, we're all friends. The battlefield that you're standing on is the actual field that the battle took place. Americans fought on this field where you're standing. Many died, some were wounded, some were fortunate enough to go home. Every year we honor them by coming to this battlefield because we want to remember. And we thank you all very much for coming out and remembering with us. In a moment, we're going to thank you. The way reenactors thank you is we're going to fire a volley to honor you coming to see us. And I will turn this part of the ceremony over to General Permain.
On your centers, good. Front. Anticipate the command. Wait for the command.
If you're gonna be late, don't fire.
Support! Support! All! Shoulder! Hold! Ready. Load!
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 Load! You're
Load
not
if you're not loaded. Brigade! Face by the rear rank! Up out! Hey! 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 Shoulder! Arms! Order! Order! Arms! Parade! Parade! Rest!
We hope to see you next February for the 155th anniversary of this battle and the 44th anniversary of the reenactment. For all of you reenactors and spectators, have a safe trip home, and don't forget our veterans. Thank you.
Attention!
Attention!
Battalion!
70!
Shoulder!
Shoulder!
Arms! In two ranks! Right! Hey! Forward!